The first thing I noticed wasn't the envelope on my porch, it was the silence. No gulls, no hum of outboard motors on Lake Harmony, no chatter of neighbors passing by on their morning walks. Just the creak of my dock lines and the cool March wind. The kind of silence that makes you feel like the world's holding its breath before bad news hits. I bent to pick up the envelope. White, thick stock. The return address was printed in the same officious serif font I'd seen on too many HOA memos over the years. But this one wasn't slipped under my door or taped to my mailbox like a friendly reminder about lawn care. Someone had walked all the way to my porch early when they knew I'd still be asleep. The paper had weight to it, the kind of weight that says someone paid extra for intimidation. I didn't even make it to the kitchen before tearing it open. Dear Mr. Harris, it began, formal and cold. It has come to the attention of the Lakeside Estates Homeowners Association that your vessel, currently docked at Slip 23, constitutes an aesthetic disturbance inconsistent with our community standards. I stopped reading. My stomach clenched, coffee-less and sour. My boat, the 35-foot Gulfstream I'd polished every spring, kept cleaner than my own truck, suddenly labeled a menace to property values? I almost laughed. Almost. 12 years of quiet living in this neighborhood. No disputes, no complaints. I'd paid every fee on time, volunteered at lake cleanups, even grilled burgers at the HOA picnic last summer. And now, out of nowhere, I was the villain ruining everyone's peaceful view. I crumpled the letter halfway and caught myself. No, better to keep it pristine. Evidence. Through the sliding glass door, I could see the marina glittering in the morning sun, my boat rocking gently at her slip. Around her, 40 other vessels floated, bigger, older, some neglected enough to grow their own ecosystems. If I'd been looking for an aesthetic disturbance, I could have made a whole slideshow. A knock at the door snapped me out of it. I already knew who it was. Angela Brooks, mid-50s, hair that never moved in the wind, designer sunglasses hiding eyes that could cut glass. HOA president and self-appointed guardian of neighborhood purity. I'd seen her turn block party planning into a military campaign. The idea of her knocking just to chat was laughable. Mr. Harris, she said smoothly when I opened the door, her lips curling into that politician smile that always made me think of someone selling burial plots. I assume you've had a chance to read our letter? I didn't invite her in. I read enough, I said. Want to explain what aesthetic disturbance means? Her gaze flicked past me to the marina. Your vessel dominates the view. Some residents are concerned. Really? Which ones? I asked, keeping my voice even. Anonymous complaints, she said with practiced calm. You understand how sensitive these matters can be. Anonymous, I repeated, letting the word hang in the doorway like smoke. That's convenient. She smoothed the lapel of her tailored jacket, unbothered by my skepticism. This isn't personal, Mr. Harris. It's about maintaining standards. We're asking you to move your boat within 28 days. After that, she let the sentence trail off, as if the weight of unspoken threats could do the work for her. I held her gaze until her smile faltered. If there's a rule about boat size, show me. Otherwise, my boat stays. For a moment, something flashed in her eyes, not frustration, not even anger, but calculation. A glint of someone who expected obedience and had a plan for when she didn't get it. She turned crisply on her heel. I'd hate for this to become unpleasant, she said over her shoulder, walking back to her spotless SUV. The silence returned after she left, thicker than before. Only now it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that tells you a storm's building, the kind that makes you check your anchor lines twice. I looked back at the letter, smoothed it flat on the counter, and felt the first spark of something I hadn't felt in years. Not fear, not even anger. Something sharper. If Angela Brooks wanted to fight over my boat, she'd just picked the wrong man to corner. The next morning, I found Angela's letter sitting on my counter like a coiled snake. I'd left it there on purpose to remind myself this wasn't just a nuisance. It was a shot across the bow. I walked down to the marina to clear my head. The early light glinted off the water, throwing silver shards against the hulls lined up in perfect rows. My boat, Second Wind, gleamed at Slip 23, paint smooth, lines tight, not a drop of bilge out of place. No yesore, no aesthetic disturbance. Just a fishing boat owned by a man who paid his dues like everyone else. Still, a few neighbors glance my way with that hesitant, half-curious expression people wear when they've heard whispers but don't know the details. A retired couple I'd shared beers with last month gave me a polite nod, then quickly turned down the dock before I could ask how they were doing. So, word was already spreading. Angela worked fast. I decided to take a longer walk around the marina. That's when I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before, things that didn't add up. The signage looked generic, almost corporate, not like HOA property at all. No Lakeside Estates branding, no community notices, no resident access, only plaques you see on every other shared facility. And the boundary lines on the dock, bright yellow paint, commercial grade. My gut tightened. If this place was truly HOA owned, it should have felt familiar, neighborly. Instead, it felt like someone's private enterprise dressed up as community property. When I got back to my house, another envelope was waiting on the porch. This one was thinner, hand-delivered again. I tore it open, expecting another form letter. Instead, I found glossy photos of Second Wind, shot from low angles to make her look like a floating fortress. In one, the lighting was so harsh it made my white hull glow like an alien craft. A note was scrawled at the bottom in blue ink, Day 1. 27 to go. My stomach flipped. Someone had been creeping around before dawn, close enough to touch my lines. It wasn't just intimidation, it was surveillance. By noon, Angela caught me at the mailbox. She appeared out of nowhere like she'd been timing her walk to intercept me. "Mr. Harris," she said with a thin smile, "we'd really prefer to resolve this amicably. Moving your vessel is the simplest solution." I held up the photographs. "These come from you?" Her smile didn't flicker. "Residents are concerned. They're documenting the issue. That's their right." "Anonymous residents again?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Or just you and your camera?" Her sunglasses reflected me back, small and distorted. "This doesn't have to turn into a legal matter. Cooperate, and it ends here. And if I don't, then you'll leave us no choice but to enforce community standards." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "And trust me, I will enforce them." For a moment, I thought about my father, who'd always told me, when someone threatens you without proof, it's because they don't have any. I smiled, just enough to annoy her. "Show me the rule, Angela. You got 27 days. Her lips thinned, and she turned away without another word. But the tension in her shoulders gave her away. I'd rattled her. That afternoon, I made some calls, old contacts from my marine contracting days, people who knew how property records worked and how to follow paper trails. Within an hour, I had access to county documents for Lakeside Estates. What I found made my pulse jump. The marina wasn't listed as HOA common property at all. It belonged to something called Coastal Properties LLC, incorporated just 2 years ago. And a registered owner? A name I didn't recognize, Hannah Brooks. Brooks, Angela's last name. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. The pieces didn't fit yet, but they were starting to. Angela wasn't just a stickler for neighborhood harmony. She was protecting something or someone, and she was willing to intimidate me to do it. As I shut down the computer, I caught movement outside my window. A dark SUV idled at the curb, tinted windows rolled up, engine humming. After a minute, it pulled away slow, deliberate. That spark I'd felt yesterday, the one sharper than anger, flared into something hotter. This wasn't just about a boat anymore. The first real crack in Angela Brooks' perfect facade came on a Thursday night. I was sitting in my home office, papers scattered across the desk, cross-referencing marina records with HOA budgets when my phone lit up with an unknown number. Normally, I don't answer late calls from strangers, but something in my gut told me to pick up. "Mr. Harris?" The voice was low, nervous. A man in his 60s, maybe older. "This is Jim Patterson. I'm on the HOA board." I leaned back in my chair. "You don't usually call to make friends, Jim. What's on your mind?" There was a long pause. "She's pushing us too far," he said finally. "None of us ever voted on these threats about your boat. Angela's making decisions on her own, and some of us are starting to wonder why." It wasn't much, but it was the first sign of fracture inside Angela's inner circle. Before I could press him for details, Jim hung up like he'd said more than he meant to. That night, I couldn't sleep. The photographs, the SUV idling at my curb, the corporate paperwork naming Hannah Brooks. It all kept turning over in my head like a current pulling me deeper. I opened my laptop again and dove further down the rabbit hole. What I uncovered hit me like a punch to the ribs. Coastal Properties LLC didn't just own our marina. The same company, the same Hannah Brooks, held titles on common area properties in 3 other Florida communities. And every time, the pattern was the same: an aesthetic violation, a manufactured crisis, then a quiet transfer of land at a fraction of its real value. This wasn't neighborhood politics. It was organized theft wearing a blazer and heels. The next morning, Angela escalated. An envelope arrived, this one heavier than the last. Inside wasn't just another letter. It was a cease and desist order on expensive legal letterhead, threatening me with $500 daily fines, civil penalties, and further legal remedies. Attached were more photographs of my boat, taken so close I could see the reflection of whoever was behind the camera. Enough was enough. I grabbed my keys and headed straight to the marina office, where Angela was meeting with 2 of her board members. When I walked in, she didn't even flinch, just folded her arms and gave me that cool, dismissive smile. "Mr. Harris, barging in unannounced isn't very neighborly," she said. Funny, I shot back, slapping the letter onto the counter. Neither is stalking someone's boat at midnight. Lisa Rodriguez, one of her allies, looked uncomfortable. Jim Patterson looked at his shoes. Angela didn't blink. "You've had plenty of warnings," she said, voice calm but sharp as glass. "Remove the vessel or face the consequences." I held up my phone, showing her the property records. "You mean the consequences for running a private scam on community land? Coastal Properties. Hannah Brooks. Ring any bells?" For the first time, her smile cracked. Only for a second, but I saw it. A flash of panic she couldn't hide fast enough. "You're mistaken," she said quickly. "My daughter's business has nothing to do with this community." "Then you won't mind when I share these documents with every homeowner in Lakeside Estates," I said. "Let them decide whether they're paying for a marina or lining your family's pockets." The air in the office tightened. Jim Patterson's head snapped up, Lisa's arms uncrossed. Angela's knuckles whitened against the counter. She stepped closer, voice low. "You think you understand what's happening here? You have no idea who you're dealing with. Walk away, Harris, for your own good." There was not a request, not a warning, a threat. I walked out without another word, adrenaline burning in my chest. The fight wasn't about a boat anymore. It was about exposing a fraud big enough to take down anyone who got in its way. As I crossed the parking lot, I spotted that same dark SUV again, engine running, windows tinted. This time, it didn't drive off. It just sat there, idling until I reached my truck. For the first time since this all began, I felt a shiver of real fear. Not for my boat, for myself. But I also felt something stronger, resolve. If Angela wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to defend my boat. I was going to pull her entire scheme out into the sunlight, no matter how deep I had to dig. By Monday morning, I was running on black coffee and stubbornness. Sleep had become optional. Every night, I heard footsteps outside, sometimes just far enough away to make me wonder if I'd imagined them. Once, I caught the shadow of a figure near my driveway. But by the time I opened the door, the street was empty except for that same dark SUV rolling slowly past. Angela wasn't just pushing anymore. She was circling. I needed backup. So I drove 3 streets over to see Mary Williams, a soft-spoken schoolteacher who always knew more about the neighborhood than anyone gave her credit for. She opened the door in a faded college sweatshirt, glancing over her shoulder before letting me in. "You're making her nervous," Mary whispered. "Angela's been calling people one by one, warning them you're dangerous, unstable, that you're trying to bankrupt the HOA with lawsuits." I laughed bitterly. Classic move. Accuse your target of exactly what you're doing. Mary's eyes darted toward the window. She asked me to sign a letter supporting her enforcement authority. I refused, but not everyone will. People are scared. That hit me harder than I expected. Neighbors I'd known for a decade, People I'd helped fix fences after hurricanes, now turning cold, worried I'd bring trouble to their doors. That night, I buried myself in research. I mapped every property Hannah Brooks had acquired in the last 3 years. Every single one lined up with Angela's HOA appointments. And the money trail? It ran through a law firm that specialized in community asset optimization, which was code for bleeding neighborhoods dry. The deeper I dug, the more isolated I felt. This wasn't just Angela and Hannah. It was an entire machine, and I was standing alone in front of it, waving a flashlight. At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a new email. No subject line, just 3 words in the body. Last warning, Harris. No signature, but I didn't need one. The next afternoon, I got another call, Jim Patterson again, voice trembling. They're planning to vote on an emergency bylaw change, he said. If it passes, they can tow your boat immediately, no appeals. Angela has the votes. Unless the other board members see what I've found, I said. They're scared of her, Jim whispered. And of whoever's really behind this. I paused. Who else is behind this? Silence. Then the line went dead. That was my breaking point. No more quiet digging. No more waiting for the perfect moment. If Angela wanted to play hardball, I'd play with real leverage. Using my marine contractor license, I applied for an emergency dock safety inspection. The county fast-tracked it after I flagged potential liability hazards. It wasn't a bluff. I'd seen loose flotation blocks and outdated wiring on the docks myself. If I had to shut the entire marina down to buy time, so be it. While the permit processed, I started making copies. Every document, every photograph, every connection between Angela, Hannah, and that LLC. I sent them to a reporter friend in Orlando with a single message. If I disappear, run this front page. The next evening, Angela showed up at my door. No letter this time. No smile either. Just cold fury wrapped in a perfect Navy suit. Do you really want to burn your own neighborhood to the ground? She said quietly. You think this is just about you in your boat? You're poking at things you don't understand. Then explain it, I said. Tell me why your daughter owns our marina. Her lips tightened. Careful, Harris. Some battles aren't worth winning. I stepped closer. Then maybe you picked the wrong man to fight. For the first time, I saw something real flicker behind her polished mask, fear. She wasn't just worried about losing her little HOA throne. She was worried about exposure. When she left, I stood in the doorway, pulse pounding, watching her SUV disappear into the night. I knew I'd crossed a line. The next move would either crush her or crush me. Saturday morning dawned like glass, still water, pale sky. The kind of day made for fishing and family barbecues on Lake Harmony. But I wasn't carrying a tackle box. I was carrying a county-issued clipboard, a stack of permits, and a roll of yellow caution tape. By 9 a.m., the marina was swarming with neighbors, coolers in hand, kids tugging on life jackets. They came expecting a perfect weekend. Instead, they found me stringing tape across the entrance dock, stapling official safety inspection, access prohibited notices to the pilings. What's going on, Mark? Bob Thompson called from his pontoon. His voice was friendly, confused, not angry yet. County inspection, I said, forcing calm. No access for 48 hours. Dock safety review. Within minutes, the confusion turned to frustration. People demanded explanations. A birthday party on the water was canceled. The monthly fishing tournament postponed. The air grew thick with complaints, whispers, glances that burned holes in my back. Then Angela arrived. She didn't bother with pleasantries. She marched straight down the dock in heels sharp enough to scar the wood, flanked by Lisa Rodriguez and 2 men I'd never seen before in expensive suits. What the hell do you think you're doing? She hissed, her voice low but shaking. Protecting the community, I said, holding up the permit like a shield. County approved. Legal authority to inspect every inch of this facility. This is our marina, she snapped, loud enough for the crowd to hear. I turned slowly to face the neighbors gathering behind me. Is it? I asked. Because county records say it belongs to Coastal Properties, LLC, owned by Hannah Brooks, Angela's daughter. A ripple went through the crowd. Murmurs, shifting feet, confused faces. Angela froze for half a second too long. Lies, she spat. Defamation. You'll be sued into the ground for this stunt. I knelt, peeled back the inspection notice, and taped a second sheet underneath. Copies of the ownership records, blown up for everyone to see. These are public documents. Anyone can verify them. The suit stepped forward, but I didn't flinch. Go ahead, I said evenly. Shove me off this dock in front of 80 witnesses and a county permit. The crowd erupted, not at me, but at her. Questions, demands, voices overlapping. Is this true? Have we been paying fees for property you don't own? Angela tried to shout over them, but the words came out brittle, cracking at the edges. This is a coordinated attack. He's trying to destroy. Stop lying to us, Angela. Jim Patterson's voice cut through the chaos, sharp as a knife. The timid accountant had found his spine. I saw the same records. We'd been scammed. It was the first open rebellion. The crowd turned, angry now, not confused, not hesitant. Furious. Angela's mask slipped completely. Her face twisted, the polished smile gone, replaced by raw fear. You don't understand, she stammered. We were protecting the neighborhood. By stealing from it, I said, my voice carried, steady. By threatening residents? By making up rules that don't exist. For a moment, everything was silent except the slap of water against the pilings. Then a reporter's camera shutter clicked. The suits exchanged a glance, realizing the optics were catastrophic. Angela looked at them for backup, but they stepped back, leaving her exposed. The county inspector arrived right on cue, clipboard in hand, confirming my authority to close the marina. He began pointing out electrical code violations, loose flotation blocks, and missing safety equipment. With each word, Angela's world crumbled in real time. This facility will remain closed until it meets county safety standards, the inspector announced to the crowd. Effective immediately. Angela's voice cracked. You can't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. The law is. The crowd surged forward, not violent but demanding. Phones out. Questions shouted. The once untouchable HOA president was drowning in her own lies, cornered with nowhere to run. I watched her SUV pull away an hour later, tires screeching, her perfect world unraveling behind her. My boat stayed exactly where it was. But this wasn't about the boat anymore. For the first time, Angela Brooks looked small, and I realized this fight was bigger than both of us. 6 months later, Lake Harmony looked different. The water was still glass in the mornings, gulls still drifted low over the marina, but the air felt lighter, like someone had opened a window in a house that had been locked too long. Angela Brooks was gone. Her resignation came the day after the county froze her daughter's assets and launched a formal investigation into their property schemes. The law firm that backed them, McCoy and Associates, was suspended by the state bar for conflicts of interest. Hannah's name disappeared from corporate registries almost overnight. Not because she'd beaten the charges, but because the state seized every property she'd acquired under Coastal Properties, LLC. The HOA elected an entirely new board in a packed community meeting. For the first time in years, neighbors didn't show up out of fear. They showed up to take their community back. And me? I stayed quieter than I expected. There was no victory lap, no parade. Just a deep, steady relief, like stepping off a boat after a long, violent storm and feeling solid ground again under your feet. The settlement came a month later, $22,000 to cover harassment, legal costs, and damages. But money wasn't what mattered. The real payoff was watching Slip 23 stay right where it was, my Gulfstream rocking gently in the sun while kids fished off the dock nearby. One afternoon, as I was wiping down the rails, Jim Patterson walked up with 2 cups of coffee. His hands didn't shake anymore. Never thought I'd see the day, he said quietly. Neither did I. He hesitated, then asked the question I'd been dreading. Was it worth it? All the stress? The neighbors turning on you for a while? The threats? I looked out at the lake. Families were laughing on the pier, not whispering about HOA fines. The marina was truly community-owned now, with transparent records and annual reports posted on every bulletin board. For the first time in years, people trusted each other again. Yeah, I said finally. It was worth it, not just for me, For everyone who thought you couldn't fight back. That evening, I saw Angela's old house dark and empty, a for sale sign leaning slightly in the grass. I heard she'd taken a plea deal to avoid prison time. Hannah withdrew from law school before the ethics board could expel her. Somewhere out there, they were probably planning their next move. People like that rarely stop scheming. But they wouldn't be coming back here. I thought about the first day all this started, the silence in the air when I found that letter on my porch, the way Angela smiled like she'd already won. I thought about every neighbor who told me to roll over, keep the peace, let it go. And I thought about what my father used to say when people mistook patience for weakness. A calm sea never made a strong sailor. As the sun dipped below the cypress trees, I sat on the deck of Second Wind and listened to the water lap against the pilings. No tension, no SUV idling at the curb. Just the lake, steady and unbothered, like it had been waiting for this moment long before any of us got here. The best part of justice isn't watching someone fall. It's watching an entire community stand back up. People still ask if I hated Angela Brooks, if I wanted revenge. The truth is simpler. I just wanted the truth out in the open, where sunlight could do what it always does, disinfect and heal. The marina lights flickered on as night settled over Lake Harmony, casting gold across the water. My boat swayed gently at her slip. The same place she'd always been, the same place she'd always belonged. And for the first time in months, the silence felt peaceful again.